The latest Bandai Namco anime game is an adaptation of the Spy Family anime with Anya at the very center of it. This game came out a while ago in Japan, having only released last week everywhere else in the world. Since my Japanese still isn't nearly as good as I'd like it to be, I've waited for this worldwide release to finally get my hands on it, and I'm happy to say that I've played it and finished it over the course of this week. After a total of 20 hours playtime, I have done it all. Every mission, every trophy, and I gotta say, I don't think it was time well spent. Now, I've read you can finish this game in about 6 hours if you are not going the completionist route like I did, and maybe that's for the best. The game is incredible at capturing the essence of the show in its writing, voice acting, customization, and graphics, but everything that makes it a video game is seriously lacking something. My name is Globku, and this is my review of Spy Anya Operation Memories. This is a game very much built for existing Spy Family fans. Sometimes games will not just cater to fans, but also try to capture new viewers. That is clearly not the case here. The game doesn't do a great job at explaining basic premises of the show. Simple stuff like Anya being able to read minds or Lloyd being secretly a spy. You can definitely figure those out as you play the game, but I'd recommend you watch the show first, otherwise it might feel like you're missing something. But just like most episodes of the show, this game is mostly a collection of different moments in the life of the Forger family. Rather than telling a story from start to finish, it focuses on those little moments of comedy and wholesomeness. Within the first few minutes of the game, you get some school homework. You have to write a diary and present it to your class. And Anya decides that she wants to make a collection of super cool moments of her life. And this is what guides the entire game. There's a lot of good writing in this. If you think the show is funny, then I'm sure you'll enjoy the writing in this too. Every time you talk to someone, the topic of conversation might be different though, and that's why this game is not really trying to tell one singular story, but much like some episodes of Spy Family, it's doing its own self-contained moments. Every single line in this game is voiced, from main cutscenes to the most optional dialogue. It's all voiced by the original cast of the show, but unfortunately, it's only voiced in Japanese, with no other language options. Graphically, I love this game, not just the character models, but locations and outfits too. All of them capture the vibe of the show extremely well, especially the outfits. I really gotta give them props for pulling off so many unique looks for all of these characters and making them work so well in the game, as you can customize not only Anya, but also Lloyd, Yor, and even Bond, the dog. You'll be visiting many places throughout your playthrough, so if you like dressing up your characters, then you're gonna get a kick out of this. The sound, on the other hand, could use some work. I think the soundtrack is fine for the most part, but sometimes there are some sound effects that are just not well balanced at all. Like this one you get after obtaining some currency. But how do you even build this diary? Well, for that, you're gonna have to play the game. So let's talk about gameplay. To build this diary, you're going to be taking pictures. A lot of pictures. There are 3 things you need to keep in mind when doing this. You got to have the picture in focus, which is the green square around the camera. You adjust this with your left stick. You got to find the right angle, which is the yellow square. You adjust this with the right stick. And you got to take the picture at the right moment, which is the purple square. You got to press R1 when it shows up. This is how you take the perfect picture and get those 3 stars and add a new picture to your album. But you can also choose to ignore all of this and just take whatever picture you want. Forget the game's guidelines and just make your diary in your own way, regardless of what the game scores you. You may miss out on some currency, but as you'll see, currency is not really an issue in this game. Now, usually there's something funny happening while you're taking a picture, and that's another way this game captures the show really well. Seeing Anya interact with the world in her own way, even if you expect some things to happen, it's still funny when they do. But then there are also other pictures where it feels like nothing happens, so it can be a little inconsistent. That said, there are over 100 pictures to take in this game, so I guess if not every single one of them is great, it's not a big issue. For the most part, you are gonna take pictures of Anya interacting with the environment or objects that were already in these places you're visiting. But each one of these locations also has 3 items that you must buy from the store and then take with you, so you can take a picture of Anya playing with them. Taking pictures gives you Eureka points, which has that incredible sound effect we just listened to, and you can use these later in the day to play minigames. Now, we'll talk about minigames later in this review. For now, just know that they exist. As you fill your diary with pictures, you'll notice that it is split into different locations. You have the school section with 20 pictures in total, the home section with another 20, and several locations you can go out together with your family. These are called outings, and each one of them has 7 pictures for you to take. And this is where we run into the first problem this game has. There is a limit of 2 pictures per day, which is incredibly restrictive, and feels like it's built this way purely to increase playtime. Basically, it's padding, because you cannot choose where to go at all times. The game runs through a day loop that looks something like this. You wake up and you go to school. In school, you take a picture using one of your actions, and you can talk to all of your classmates there. That's actually a very good reward if you talk to them. Besides, you might get some good moments and laughs with these conversations. After you're done with the picture and talking to everyone, you come back home, talk to your parents, and take your second picture of the day there. Then it's dinner time, and at night is usually when I sit down and play minigames, which gives you PP. Those are the points that you need to buy items and outfits. And then it's bedtime and the day starts over. You have 2 school days before you can have an outing day. And outing days are a bit simpler. You just wake up and go to the outing. You can take 2 pictures there out of the 7, which means you'll have to visit each location 3 times. I know the math doesn't work, but one of those 7 pictures is special and doesn't take an action point. There are 10 locations in total, and this is why the game gives you a skip button at some point. So you don't even have to go to school, so you can just skip that phase. I mean, this is what the end game looks like. We are no longer enjoying conversations. Honestly, they're all repeated at this point, because we have been in this game for almost 3 months now. Naturally, everyone's run out of dialogue. I don't get why they put this 2 picture a day limitation. They clearly did not have enough game for it. But back to our earlier days, after you take those 2 pictures during the outing, you return home, choose the next place you're gonna go to in 3 days, play some minigames, and it's bedtime again. It's basically a 3-day loop that repeats over and over, and it's honestly too short of a loop. It makes the game feel repetitive too quick. New outing locations help visually, and they have new dialogue, so that helps a little. But honestly, it's not enough, because the gameplay doesn't really change between different locations. Even if your school days aren't always in the classroom, you only have 2 other locations, the gym and the science room, and once again, you're still taking pictures and still talking to your classmates. When you return home, maybe Yuri or Fiona will be there, but that's just an extra conversation between the 2 of you. Again, no drastic gameplay changes here. And this is why this game really outstays its welcome. It gets repetitive early on, and does not improve over time. But speaking of those conversations, let's talk about my favorite feature this game has, and that's the special event cutscenes. Some characters will have this red symbol over their heads. That means they're important and you should talk to them. Not only are these conversations a bit more elaborate than talking to random NPCs, once you're done with a conversation, it fills up a bar above their head. And once the bar is full, you get a full cutscene with that character. Some characters have multiple cutscenes. Anya's parents, for instance, they have 4 each. And this is easily the best part of the game for me. It's like a 3 to 4 minute mini episode of Spy Family, topped off with some really good artwork. These cutscenes are funny, wholesome, they're everything you love about Spy Family, but much like everything else in the game, they take way too long to unlock. You're gonna have to talk to everyone a bunch of times. But as you've probably noticed, minigames are also a central part of this daily loop. I mean, every day I was ending by playing minigames. You take pictures, and that's how you get the currency to buy outfits or items that you take with you on your days off. So let's talk about these minigames that you'll most likely be playing on a daily basis. Alright, let's talk about them. There are 17 minigames in total that you unlock over time. No special requirement to unlock any of them, simply play the game. And they range from not great to downright terrible. Now, they're mostly harmless. I would have probably enjoyed most of these if I had only played them once or maybe twice. But if you're doing a completionist playthrough, they're actually a nightmare. This game has optional missions, which are gonna require you to play through each minigame a total of 9 times. And that's assuming you do all the missions first try. Because some of these minigames actually have some RNG, like the card games. You may be able to read minds, Anya, but that's not gonna stop them from having a godlike hand. And none of these minigames are good enough to carry 9 playthroughs for each one of them. Now, a lot of them will feel familiar. There are simple rhythm games. There are games where you have to memorize a sequence of buttons and then replicate it. There's a timed button press to cut vegetables at the right time, that kind of stuff. Then there's also Pac-Man. Yeah, literally Pac-Man, down to the music and everything. If you're wondering how they can get away with this, remember, Bandai Namco also owns Pac-Man. My favorite minigame is probably Yuri's. He wants to make sure he eats all of his sister's food, but he doesn't want any of Lloyd's food, so he just gives it to Anya. So you have to press a bunch of different buttons for eating and passing the plate off to the side, and the game lets you go as fast as you want. Like, there's no cooldown between these buttons, so it's really satisfying if you find your groove. Minigames also let you play as Lloyd and Yor. Lloyd's is a stealth mission where you have to find a cipher in 5 different paintings, but you're very loud while doing so you gotta be careful with guards. It's kinda cool because the levels are randomly generated, so you're never playing in the same place. Yours, on the other hand, is awful. One of the worst brawlers I have ever played. It's really bad. They've also got a basic side-scrolling runner, a few card games, a reaction game, so you take notes and then put up your hand depending on what the teacher does. And I think that's enough to give you an idea of what to expect from these minigames. Again, any of these, once or twice, would be fine, but none of them are good enough to support playing through them 9 times. Not even Pac-Man. I have played hundreds of hours of Pac-Man, both the official games and knockoffs. It's not hard to make a good Pac-Man, but they messed that up too. The levels aren't random, which makes it super repetitive, and then it's just super janky. The agents sometimes get stuck and just stop moving altogether. Like, what's going on here? Now, to be fair, the minigames are mostly optional. All they give you is that currency for outfits and items, and although the items for the pictures are actually mandatory, the outfits are not. Now, they're not just cosmetic, they do have some small bonuses, like more currency earned or store discounts or movement speed. But money really isn't a problem in this game, and if you're in trouble, there's actually a currency doubler that's on by default in the options menu. But I feel like this game already drags enough as it is, and movement speed, I mean, come on. Are we racing to take pictures? So the bonuses are mostly inconsequential, meaning you could actually get away with only playing these minigames a couple of times. That is, if you don't have the completionist brain that I do. And as a final note, there's actually a 2-player mode that you can access from the title menu, so you can play some of these minigames against a friend locally. Most of them are split screen, but some, like dodgeball or that classroom minigame, player 2 just becomes the other character, so that's pretty cool. With all of that put together, it's time to score this game, and if you're new here, we use letters for our review scores from F, which is really bad, to A, which is really good. And this is my score for Spy Anya Operation Memories.
と綺麗に書くことをだが家族と過ごす日々
It's a shame they didn't have a better idea for this. They managed to capture the spirit of Spy Family so well with its writing and visual style, but end up fumbling everything that makes it a video game. Anya's life is a lot more interesting than 3 days played on loop, and yet it feels like that's all you play, whether you are a completionist or not. The same 3 days, over and over. And I hope the minigames would save it, but they are harmless at best and infuriatingly repetitive at worst. I don't think this is a good product, and it's definitely very expensive for what it does, but I wouldn't say it was a complete waste of time. So if you ever catch it on a PlayStation Plus or a Game Pass, or it has an extremely good sale, then I'd say it's worth giving it a shot. Probably don't go for completionist though. It wasn't worth it. And that's gonna do it for this review, but if you've played the game, let the people know what you think of it in the comments below. And for more anime game reviews, check out the playlist right here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.